Dr. Anastassia Lauterbach is a Global Hall of Fame honoree for business excellence, an AI strategist, and a creative force at the intersection of technology, leadership, and storytelling. She's built a global career as a C-level executive, an entrepreneur, a board member, advising companies on artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and governance across multiple industries. Today, we'll explore her journey from Moscow to Europe with just 50 Deutsche Marks and no safety net, how that shaped her ethical lens on power, accountability, and human vulnerability in high-stakes corporate life. We'll dive into her current mission as founder of AI Edutainment and the creator of the Romy and Roby universe and AI Snacks with Romy and Roby podcast, where she uses science-based storytelling, humor, and heart to build AI literacy for families, organizations, and to reimagine how humans and intelligent machines might live, learn, and care together. Wow, you've set yourself a hell of a mission. Thank you so much for joining. It's very, very, very kind of you.
Andrew, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Pleasure. I just wanted to start off as but by taking you back to your childhood, your formative years, your education. What was it you think drew you towards science, language, psychology, and then eventually AI?
Well, growing up in the 70s and in the 80s in Moscow was quite tough. And I went through a series of serious mobbing in school. So I was quite a lonely child, and I was playing piano. So I have two school formation, one for music and another one for just, general school education. But my school was specialized in physics and in French. So we did a lot of natural science. And then, of course, French. I've never visited France back then, but I read all French classics in French, and I could really recite from most of the French poetry, starting with 16th, 17th century to the 20th century. All of this was quite, part of who I grew to become. And at the age of 16, I've already started studying at the university, and my subject was computational linguistics and linguistics. And this is when I first started thinking about pattern recognition in machines.
Mm-hmm.
And everything back then was before we kind of, develop GPUs, so semiconductors powering first gaming applications, and then obviously AI, machine learning applications. And in the 80s, we did not have big data, and in the 90s, comparing to what the internet had at the beginning of the year 2000s and later.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no kind of, food for the machine to train on, and no kind of, fire to power those machine engines. And for this reason, I was doing a lot of machine translation. It was not very successful comparing to what we have today. And I left my home country at the age of 20. I really had only 50 Deutsche Mark in my pocket, but I could find a job within 2 weeks of being abroad. I went to Germany because I did not receive a visa for France. And then the German employer converted my tourist visa into temporary visa. And then obviously I stayed, and 7 years later I received the German citizenship. So this is the only citizenship I have. Okay. And I worked throughout many industries, building up my professional knowledge. I first did not work as a technologist. I was working first at the reinsurance company, Munich Re, which was the largest reinsurance provider worldwide. I became an underwriter there, and from there I went to McKinsey, because I've always thought I needed to have an MBA, but I did not want to pay for one. So for this reason, I just went into management consulting. And then I was recruited by a client, back then Daimler Chrysler. So they were together back then. And then from there, I went into T-Mobile International, Deutsche Telekom, and ended up at Qualcomm. And then in 2013, I stepped down from all my corporate activities because I was a mom. My daughter was 3 years old, and she started singing from symphonies. And it was obviously before COVID, before we understood that there was such a thing as hybrid work environment. So we had to fly everywhere. As a CEO of Qualcomm Europe, I was really traveling every single day, flying. I had, of course, someone who was helping me, a nanny, but a nanny can't replace a mom, especially if you have to invest time into quite a talented child. My daughter today is 17 years old. She is a pianist. She competes, but she will study medicine. So she is in 11th grade in an international school. She will be doing IB next year. So this is actually quite busy for her because she has her 11th grade exams. And she is already at the conservatory, and she's in the fourth semester of conservatory doing piano. And next year, after school, she will be passing her medical exam to enter a medical university, and then so we will see how it evolves. But obviously, I was not capable in 2013, 14 to kind of combine corporate career and taking care of my daughter, and I was more or less on my own, so no one could help me to take care of her. So I was building my own small boutique business. I was really supporting her. And then in the night, I was working for US-based clients. In the very early morning, I was supporting Chinese clients. So in China, in Shenzhen, in Shanghai. So this is how I started as an entrepreneur. And now kind of, huge leap forward. So when ChatGPT started in November 22, so started the noise about AI. And I've already had a book in the market called The AI Imperative. So it was published in earlier 2018. I wrote it in 2017. And I wrote it because I noticed that so many senior people in the United States, especially, did not understand what AI was about. And they were asking me questions which were really so basic. And I'm not blaming those people because not everyone can study computational linguistics or computer science or even statistics. So I decided to really explain to normal business people what AI was. I was doing this because AI was becoming quite a huge force in digital transformation. And we faced first AI first or AI centric companies. So this is how I call them in my book. And we were facing 10 most valuable companies around 2016 and 2017 being AI-centric companies. So the traditional suspects from the United States, West Coast, and then we had their peers in China. Obviously, those Chinese peers are not currently on the list of top 10 most valuable companies in the world, but it has to do with geopolitics and how internal Chinese politics prevented certain IPOs and certain, let's say, M&As. Having said that, the companies are still tremendously valuable and develop very interesting products and services, and a lot of parallels in between of what is going in the United States, like Alphabet or Baidu in China, Tencent, Huawei, etc. So I had this book in the market, and then we had this moment of democratization of AI for the general public. So when people started using an AI service for whatever, so most of those people replaced Google search with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. And the noise started, which was kind of, sometimes coming from a huge surprise. And, before social media, let's say, people were not expressing themselves freely. Now they had this public wall to write their opinions. And I'm sorry, every mediocrity had a space to shout out loudly. And then on another hand, we had huge investments being put into AI. This money will never be returned to the investors. But the companies need to say we are very grand and this is what is going to happen. So this narrative around reasoning models, models that understand, started to emerge. And this is an outrageous nonsense. So when I hear about those things, and sometimes those things are coming from very prominent figures, I'm simply saying, show me the math. Yeah. And I'm not mathematician by training, but I understand well enough. I can follow. And I just want to say, do you have a foundational basis in mathematics? And if you don't tell me nonsense. And I spend a lot of my time in neuroscience research these days because I really want to understand how does intelligence occur in a biological being. And of course, we can say intelligence might be substrate independent. Yeah, so it might happen that it would be a machine one day, but not those machines which are currently being built. Yeah. And there are certain properties which I'm very clear about in my work and in my AI literacy work, what those are. There might be certain other things which I'm currently not familiar with and have to learn about. But I have kind of, my space and my opinion about how AI evolves. And I think it's tremendously important because AI is a universal technology. It's a horizontal technology. It's not just for, let's say, a banking business or energy business or education. It's deeply horizontal. And for this reason, I believe we need to become AI literate. And what I'm discovering is that tech companies are pushing all kind of educational content and courses to make us the users, but kind of take from us this thinking part. And when we are blaming AI for whatsoever, in principle we should be blaming ourselves because so we are living in an era where there will be huge separation based on whether you are exercising your human agency or not. And human agency comes with a couple of responsibilities. And one of the first responsibility is really to learn and to invest into your own skill set. And unfortunately, we can't swallow a pill and out of the sudden we are waking up next day and we are Einstein. This won't happen. Same as we won't play Il Joyeuse of Debussy because we swallow a magical drink. Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice, but it's unfortunately our biology is not built this way, and our biology emerged in the course of really millions of years. So the story of brains is only 15% of the story of life on this planet. So it's still very, very recent. Those are really a couple of millions of years when we can talk about real intelligence. And when I'm kind of looking into how is it possible that, for example, you and I, we can kind of imply what you and I are having in our heads, and then we can rely to this and have an interesting discussion. But this is not just because we have some divine properties, but because, for example, we have a cranial prefrontal cortex, which emerged in the course of the evolution. And when apes started to live in social groups, and it was important just to survive, to align with another member of this society. So nothing in evolution was like an accident. Yeah, it was formed because of a certain natural conditions, natural habitat, and then certain behaviors. And of course, current AI is tremendously powerful, great for so many things. But those are statistical processing machines of tokens. So I'm talking now about those LLMs, architecture based on transformers. They are not built around truly understanding and reasoning, which is coming from learning from imaginary scenarios. Like a child is dressing up as a pirate or a princess, playing with other children, and they're kind of contemplating what is happening and why. And of course they are not princesses and pirates in real life, so they are playing with the scenarios which have never occurred. Yeah. But they're learning causality because they are engaging in in these games, in this play. And this is tremendously important for the development of intelligence, of critical thinking based on causality. And then, so many things are coming from that. And we need to embed similar things into AIs to make AIs more intelligent, and then to make them reason and understand. So first understand and then reason. And then a couple of other things like the world model. So this is what Jan LeCun is doing today, the former AI scientist of Facebook or Meta, who is currently doing his own lab, trying to teach AIs world models. And then the theory of mind, where we don't have, to my knowledge, mathematics to really base something like this in machines. And I'm really I could see no one is doing this work. So you have this hype bandwagon and everyone is running. And then on another side, I was a corporate and I was in charge of 4.7 billion P&L, profit loss in euro. And I understand profit loss and cash flow. When I see that 95% of AI programs fail,
Yeah.
and on another hand, you have all this bonanza of the great AI. So something is not in a good fit here. And I'm saying you really must understand what you are using and how those machines work. And this is, when I'm kind of, thinking, yes, I agree with, for example, Andrew Ng, AI is a new electricity, but not yet. Because electricity, we do not need to think how it works. So you and I are using right now internet and we are online. So obviously electricity is involved. We don't need to understand how it occurs. But in AI, if we understand, then we can make conscious decision. What type of AI do we want to use? Do we really need to go this path or that path? Unfortunately, to make good investment decisions, we need to know more. And if we have a good knowledge base, then we have expectations which are not from the fantasy land, which are rooted in reality. And the same is coming then to how do we manage the risk? What is our roadmap? What are we doing with our people if we are a leader in an organization or we have our own company? So all around this. And when I spotted that no one is doing this work, or some people are claiming to do this work, but they are funded by grants, and they have never studied the subject, then I'm kind of, okay, nothing good will come out of this. And it might be considered naive, but so in those 2 years, I developed a following around of 40,000 people. And I will be simply pushing for this work. I fund it. I self-fund my work. Maybe in a year I will have an NGO connected to this, but it's still too early. I still need to kind of achieve a couple of milestones before I build this. And this is tremendously important because AI touches us, and we must understand how, and who is in charge. And this is obviously my purpose in life right now, and the mission to bring AI knowledge and understanding into 1 million families and 100,000 businesses.
Goodness, you said a lot. A lot of questions now. So, and I think one of the things you said was that when you wrote the book back in 2017, 2018, there was a real lack of knowledge within business about what AI is. And I would say that I think there's still a lack of knowledge about what AI is and what AI does.
Absolutely.
I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, "Oh, we've just signed an agreement to have 10,000 Claude licenses, seats in the business." I said, "That's great. So what are you actually trying to do?" I said, "Oh, but no, we've got 10,000 seats." It's like, okay, what? And it's there used to be a quote that I love. It was from an architect, and the quote was, "Technology is the answer." Now, what's the question?
What
And
was the question?
I think we're in the same place now. I think now we're saying AI is the answer. What's the question? So I think the challenge is lots of businesses almost think, well, we've got lots of AI tools, and like you were saying, 95% of pilots fail, but they're not necessarily sure what to do with the tools. It's like giving somebody who doesn't know anything about cars lots of spanners and hammers and things, saying, "Go and fix that car." So, well, they don't know where to start, and that's a challenge. Now, having tools is not a strategy, and I think that's one of the big issues. Then the second thing I wanted to ask you was, we seem to be in a place, and I think ChatGPT raised some more money yesterday, so put its valuation at, I think, 984 billion. I think our topic's around a trillion. All the companies, there's three or four of them now that are supposedly worth a sort of $1 trillion. But how are the AI companies, the big companies, going to make money?
So, in my eyes, they want to, let's say, satisfy investors.
Yep.
So currently, those are quite large PR organizations
Mm-hmm.
living on some fairy tales, based on our lack of understanding and what those fairy tales are about. And this is kind of, my critique, and I use AI a lot. AI is useful. We need to be open-eyed. I will say a couple of words about this. But I just don't see that they can kind of, raise prices to the point where they will completely fund organically what they try to do.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone who works in some business understands that piece of the valuation is based on fantasy and some perspectives, which are quite subjective. And then a market perspective is being formed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some very important milestones in valuations. So, for example, before 2014, those digital assets, which is data, IT systems harboring this data, touching the data, then intellectual property, it was really under 12-14% of valuation of the company.
Mm-hmm.
But these days, when you're kind of looking into how this valuation is being formed, we are talking about 90%. 90. And this is across all kind of industries. And when we see that, it's not a surprise that among the most valuable businesses on earth, we have AI-centric businesses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is about data, it's about really sophisticated IT. And then you have tons of IP, intellectual property. And when I hear about fantasies in AI land, I am always asking, show me the IP and then show me the semiconductor. Because, the point is, if you don't have certain things on semiconductor roadmaps, let's say 4 to 5 years from now, those things simply won't happen. And you need to have IP, yeah, because those things are not descending to us from Mars, and we should not forget that the majority of really a breakthrough in AI were coming from the 50s, 60s. 70s, yes, we had Transformers in 2014, but Jürgen Schmidhuber would now jump on me and say, but the first transformer type architecture was in the 90s, and of course developed by him in Germany. And by the way, I love his work, and I don't understand why he did not receive a Turing Prize, but others who actually followed in his step did receive this award. So, it's just, I believe we need to be quite cold-headed when we look into something that big. And what I dislike a lot is when very, very smart people, tremendously smart people, start telling the same stories without looking into the basics. What is the mathematical base? What is the base in IP? What is happening with the semiconductors? And of course, just, getting more and more lights in those data centers. And, let's put even more money into developing those quite vulnerable architectures. Why I'm saying vulnerable? I'm a podcaster. And probably you see the same problem. All type of people are writing to you to claim they did X, Y, Z, and they want to be guest on your show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the name of your podcast is Empathy Unbound. So I can only imagine what you go through in those fairy tales put in front of you. I sometimes have claims like we solved hallucinations. You can't solve hallucinations in large language models because you can reduce hallucinations, but the architecture, so deep learning as a system, there is no math to master the distribution shift, So so AIs are collections of points and clouds, yeah, and we are in the neighborhood of certain point and clouds. For example, we are doing one ontology, for example, legal stuff,
Yeah.
and we really master this domain, and then we have a language model connected to this really checked domain. Of course, you might be less into committing mistakes, errors, etc. But if this is the whole internet, it's simply impossible that you are you've got rid of those hallucinations and mistakes. It's in the very basis of the architecture. And when so this famous paper about stochastic parrots, so the one who got Google ethicists ousted from the company, yeah. I
Yeah.
was looking into this paper and I was like, what is the big news here? I mean, it's all in the neuroscience. Of course, this is what it is. But apparently, if you phrase it and put something that blank in front of people who are building technology, they get offended because they've never studied neuroscience and probably they don't read. I mean, just books, novels, and
Mm.
etc. And it limits your view on what you are building, and out of sudden you start feeling yourself as probably a mythical figure, a god, something bigger than you are. And I think that humility is a very important property, and I think it takes wisdom to stay humble. And I think it's a task for leadership in company to keep themselves and the workforce humble, because those big mathematical issues have not been mastered, or have never been mastered yet. Yeah. And we need to invest into, for example, causality. They are mathematics for this, but we are still, let's say, in an infancy there comparing to LLMs. We need to invest in world model. If LeCun is successful, great, but one lab won't be enough. So we need kind of more. We need to treat professors at the university with care and with respect, and not kind of cut all the funding from schools, because this is where sometimes some research is being produced, right?
Yeah.
And so much of research was produced and funded by state, not by those companies. So this is more or less quite recent phenomenon. So started with probably 2000 and after the year 2000. So we really need to review the paradigm. How do we invest and in what? And not kind of putting 98% of all the funds into what is already there, which will only increase the problem. Yeah. But this is once again, do people have a vision? Do they have clarity? And do they have courage? Do they have spine? AI does not have spine. This, I don't want to say moral courage, but I would say just human courage and thinking. This is a property of humans, and simply to dare to exercise agency and say, is it the right path? And I'm not saying go and demonstrate for machine to AI alignment. When I hear something like this, I'm like, show me how. What do you mean? Because if this is empty, it's only, I'm sorry, an empty word. It's a blah, blah. I don't do that. If I hear, okay, make AIs more responsible with embed causality, learning from counterfactuals, embed world models, and find out a way how to embed theory of mind into machines, into AI. Then I say, okay, I'm with you,
Mm.
because it's concrete. I can see a stream of projects, programs, companies, ecosystem being built around this. And this is actually, what I'm advocating for, and trying to grow a niche, because it's simply very important. And it might be still, let's say, too early, because the world did not fail that hard in AI implementations right now. So right now we are on a wave of management by hope. But I think that at some point in time, the companies will need to see real money, and they will be asking questions about their future. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the recognition that we require serious AI literacy will surface. Yeah.
Mm.
So this is kind of, the case I'm building my programs, my projects on.
Mhm.
And of course, it's a lot of work and self-motivation.
And I, yeah. So I completely agree with what you said. No, but I have a thought, and you can tell me I'm completely wrong. That LLMs and artificial or general intelligence are two quite separate things. So I think one of the challenges we have now is that companies like Anthropic or OpenAI, etc., they're trying to build better and better LLMs. But I think it'll be a different company or a different organization or a different set of academics that actually come together and create AGI. So
Yeah.
I think it's almost like if you're a car manufacturer, you're always going to try and build a better car. You're not necessarily going to go and build a boat. But
Yeah.
actually, you might try and build a car that floats, but that's not the same as building a boat. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And by the way, there is a research. So there is one economist, who is, by the way, I think physicist by training, but he is now professor of economics. And I'm actually having his book here on a table, because I'm going to interview him from my podcast. It's Cesar Hidalgo. So this is the book.
Mhm.
And he studied innovation, and he actually studied how innovation ecosystem emerged. And it's no surprise that electrical cars were not revolutionized
Yes.
at Mercedes or at
Or
Volvo.
Daimler. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for example, he was looking in his book into the former military industry in Germany, right? And in
Mhm.
Japan. And obviously, after the Second World War, those industry could not proceed. Yeah. And so the allies were very strict in kind of, cutting off this military
Yep.
power from the countries. But they moved into motorcycles,
Yep. Car
into
manufacturing. Yeah, absolutely.
interesting,
Mhm.
aviation, etc. And this is interesting. So it did not come from like the incumbents.
Yeah.
Yes, it came from companies with very, very deep engineering knowledge.
Mhm.
And so, in my eyes, you're completely right. So those AGIs won't emerge from current, let's say, LLM labs. And Alphabet is much more than an LLM, because the quality of the research, so what DeepMind is doing, it's much, much more. Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes are really unbelievable. So I think that the Nobel Prize for chemistry, it was a symbolical Nobel Prize, but it was well deserved for folding of proteins. But we are not talking about the so-called GNOME project. So when they discovered how to do new materials.
Mhm.
And then research scientists from material science, they really went through everything the AI suggested, and they said, it's all nice, but certain things can't be manufactured at any reasonable cost, because those conditions simply do not exist in normal companies and in normal labs.
Yeah.
Or here we have materials which would oxidize. And I mean, it just shows that AI does not know any of those conditions. It simply plays with things, with
Mhm.
patterns, And yes, some patterns are tremendously interesting, but then you kind of, think, okay, and now I'm wearing my white lab coat and I need to really execute. And you can't with this input. So for this reason, I think you can build so clever, fantastic models. And with your intelligence plus the model, you won't be beatable. So you will really win.
Mm.
But it implies you really know your stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did not outsource your studies to an LLM.
Mhm.
When you were studying, you invested time, you understand the basics, and then you have this additional intelligence which you are not capable of, because we can't hold this amount of memory. We can't correlate. We can't read 30 million papers over a week, which is currently in this very large lab of medical papers, but an AI can.
Yeah.
And then it will spot very interesting questions. And I loved what you are saying, like, okay, so we have those licenses, what was the question? And so within my podcast, I have those episodes where I'm just kind of, discussing tech, or I'm discussing AI in
Mhm.
industry, like what is happening in healthcare. But then I have one series under the umbrella of AI Snacks, which I'm doing together with Matthias Roederer, who is the former MD of von Karajan Foundation. He is, uh, a very skilled AI researcher, and he's a musician. And we are discussing human excellence at the age of AI. And we did kind of, what artists are doing with AI and what type of tools. And last week we recorded an episode, and it was about can AI enable a new problem? Can it formulate a question? And I really invested time in researching for this episode. So, there are some, like, maybe, for example, you correlate stuff and then there is a novel construction of a molecule, and it has not been perceived by human and was not born in human brain, but AI spotted the patterns among those 30 million papers.
Mm.
But this is not really like a tremendously new question. Yeah. So it's
No.
based on the existing, and then you're repackaging. And of course, it's very, very helpful. Yeah. But still, it's what is the degree of novelty? And maybe we demand too much. But look, humans progress because they sometimes they kind of try to put to surface something which was deeply forgotten. So that was, for example, in Renaissance, when out of sudden people remembered that the world of antique culture was unbelievable. And actually Christianity killed the Roman Empire. So if we really deep dive into the history, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Protestantism were not the same. When the early Christians came to be, and all what we kind of enjoy today came only later. But when the Roman Empire was a force with an unbelievable culture, right? This culture was forgotten. For
Yeah.
example, cement existed in antique Rome, and then it was forgotten how to produce it in Europe, and we had this very, very dark period, which we call today Middle Age, right? And then we had the Renaissance, because they rediscovered the culture of the antique Greece and antique Rome and Roman Empire. And I'm kind of, thinking sometimes those are well forgotten things, but sometimes they are very, very new things.
Yeah.
And a person, a human, or a school of a certain kind of, stream of knowledge enabled this new discovery. And I need to see something like this coming from AI. And
Mm.
right now, I don't. And I read multiple papers about the subject. Yeah. So, but I'm still not seeing this aha,
Mm.
something completely fresh, novel. So, and that's kind of, we need this combination between humans and machines.
Hmm.
We need cyborgs, but I say it with a reverence, so not in those cyborgs which are scary and from
Science
sci-fi
fiction. Yeah, yeah.
killing people, but we need cyborgs in the best sense, so enabling people, enhancing human agency, giving them new tools to solve problems, having assistance, so all those beautiful things.
Mm.
But once again, we must invest in humans, and
Well, yeah, and
that's
it was interesting.
paramount.
You said, just sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
you mentioned there before about Catholicism. Obviously, this week one of the big news has been that Pope Leo put out
yeah,
his first
both.
encyclical on,
Yeah,
and it wasn't necessarily on AI. It was on humanity and how humanity is potentially threatened or challenged by AI. And then one of his big things, without actually specifically saying, is that AI has no consciousness and AI is a tool and lots. And it wasn't anti-AI, but it was interesting to sort of read a sort of theological take. And a lot of people have put out lots of headlines on LinkedIn and things, and it's obvious they haven't read the whole thing because I think
absolutely.
it's only I think 37, 38 pages, not very long. It's interesting to read, but yeah, I wonder where, and I think I know your answer. But where do you sit on the does AI have the potential to have the capacity to exhibit consciousness?
Zero. So what we have today,
Hmm.
I would say simply zero. Yeah, and of course there are tons of opinions on what constitutes consciousness.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you reside in the UK, so you have Anil Seth.
Mhm.
I forgotten which university he is, but
He's so I'm studying at the University of Sussex. He's the
okay.
University of Sussex.
So
Yeah.
I mean, he's a giant in when it comes to the questions of consciousness.
Hmm.
And of course, look, we need to be very careful. For example, I think we need to think in a more democratic way about consciousness, because uh, Biennale last year was dedicated to architecture. So this year it's art. So last year was architecture. They're switching. And it was full of AI, and they were talking about intelligence of stones, and like this medium in between of like the earth and the surface and this microbial life, which exhibits, so if Max Tegmark, so the astrophysicist, is correct, and intelligence is information processing, yes, microbial life process information,
Mm.
yeah, then some plants, we can talk about intelligence of plants, right? And
Absolutely, absolutely. We look at mycelium, you look at mycelium, and look at how trees
yeah,
can grow, etc., etc. But I
so
think there's a famous paper by a guy called Nagel, and
yeah,
it's what is it like to be a bat? And I think
absolutely, yes.
one of the challenges, and it was unfair of me, I guess. One of the challenges is almost the question. It's not can AI exhibit consciousness? Is almost what is consciousness for an AI? Because consciousness
Absolutely.
for me, consciousness for you, consciousness for a plant, consciousness for a bat, they're different things. Because I'm not a bat, I don't know what consciousness feels like as a bat. So I'm not an AI. So consciousness is part of is actually the wrong word, but we can't expect AI to exhibit human consciousness because it's not
Mhm.
human. That's the I guess the going around in
Yeah.
circles question in a way.
It's just, so for example, I'm convinced if we, I think it's a thought experiment, because I don't think anyone would ever do it. So let's say we deprive a new LLM from all the text which refers to consciousness, reasoning, so all those things. And we train this LLM without this input. And then we ask the LLM whether it's conscious. The point is the LLM shifts vectors in the semantical space. So this is what it does. It does not
Yeah.
know, it treats language.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you and I, we know we use now spoken language. If we were not capable to that, we would be using gesture. Yeah. So the machine has no idea we are humans and this is a language. But because it was trained on so many, let's say, pieces of literature about, for example, reasoning and consciousness, it will give you all the blubbery which you might want. Yeah. And so if we deprive the training material from this setup, we might get a very different situation. And I am not at all subscribing to this. Oh, so it was trying to decept. So there are so many tales about it, and even coming from people who I really, really deeply respect, like Sam Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm whenever I hear, listen to him talking about AI, I'm like, you must busy yourself with technology. And then he acknowledged a couple of episodes ago on his podcast that he's not in the neighborhood of how those technologies work. And then I was like, okay. So obviously he did this TED talk in 2016 about the AI alignment. And everything he's doing now is like confirming his cognitive biases about this subject. And I am with him saying, so imagine we know 50 years from now some alien civilization is coming to Earth. Yes, we must prepare already now, whatever setup it is, yeah, whether we believe they are friendly or not friendly. So the three body
Everybody
problem
problem. Yeah,
is
yeah,
an interesting kind of context.
yeah.
This is, for example, why another series on my podcast is together with professor of creative writing and literature, and we discuss portrayals of AI and robotics in literature and movie, and we are discussing Clara and the Sun this very Sunday. So it's just, I think you need to have some distance to what you claim, and you need to look into the thing from different angle. And if you see that some angle is becoming not just an angle, but the whole huge universe, then you need to shift your opinion. And I think for the intellectual people, so it's very seductive to discuss the doom of human civilization and the overpowerful AI and what will happen. And then you talk to economists, like the guy in I don't remember Oxford or Cambridge. He's German, Fry, and he's like, we don't see any impact on productivity at
Yeah.
this point in time, zero. Yeah. Or Ajimoglu, he is at MIT, zero, or 0.5% of the workforce. And you're like, how is it possible? And yes, jobs are changing, absolutely. Yeah, because of course automation is coming in, AI is coming in, but it's not like everyone is out of sudden tremendously productive. And the point
Yeah.
is, what you kind of gain at the beginning, you lose, because you really must check all those models for hallucinations. You need to kind of rethink, is this all okay or not? Yeah. So we need to take all those conversations with a grain of salt. I am not commenting on Pope because I need to read the thing first. But I believe, this is my fundamental belief, is that AI is mounting into a new status of religion. Because look, we have a doctrine, we have the apostates and heresy. Yeah, you can just take people and distribute them into different camps. You have the churches. So OpenAI is a church, Meta is a church, yeah,
Yeah.
with the popes, or take whatever name you want. Then you have the cult, and people, the believers, so the whole LinkedIn writing their own messages with AI and putting them out there. Another day I was seeing a message by someone I know who's a consultant, and he's like, I won't any longer use AI because so we believe this is better not to use AI, and our customers want us to use human language. I would be ashamed to even, and people, they don't really, so this is kind of, this lowering of the barrier for intellectual honesty and critical thinking. So this erosion is there. And I think that I would love the empire to strike back at some point in time, yeah, to wake up and to say, but we need really agency. We need, how do we form those humans? We need to robot proof them.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that we use AI for good, not for, let's say, putting more and more badly formulated stuff on LinkedIn, which actually no one deeply cares about.
No, and nobody, and it's like I still like LinkedIn as a place to go and find ideas and connect with people and things, but it's increasingly you can tell so quickly on which posts are written by AI and which ones
Yeah,
aren't really. But
absolutely.
it's yeah, it's very interesting. What you said before about him deciding not to use AI and people want to engage with humans, not AI or whatever. So there's certainly been experiments done in the US where somebody's seen a therapist and then they're not told whether the therapist they're talking to is an AI or a human. It's just all sort of TypeScript, whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end of the sessions, the 82% of people said they were satisfied and thought it was very, very good and very useful, whatever. Then they were told it was AI, and then suddenly only 20% of them are satisfied. So there's almost that belief that, well, is AI, therefore it can't be good, which is false. And I was so you've got a 17-year-old daughter, I've got a 16-year-old son, 19-year-old daughter. My daughter's studying philosophy at university. My son's just doing his GCSEs we have here. He's sort of end of school exams, and it's interesting because my daughter is very, very reluctant to engage with AI. She hears lots of stories about the power usage, water usage, the
Yeah.
damage it's doing, AI, all in really important things. But the son's much more interested in that, and I was sort of trying to formulate a conversation in the summer with my daughter as to how to recognize that AI isn't necessarily going anywhere. So to avoid it isn't necessarily putting yourself in the best position. How I mean, it's obviously different between you and your daughter because you've obviously been very, very close and connected and spent lots of huge amount of time together. But how do you communicate that AI is neither good nor bad, almost in a way, to teenagers? How do you have that conversation? Help me.
Look, this is a very, very interesting question, what you're asking now. And I'll give you not a very short answer
Mm.
because I'm currently running a global study on AI literacy, so not on AI fluency. And
Mhm.
the distinction was not really present in my head before I started doing this project.
Mhm.
And there will be results which will be revealed on the 22nd of October in the House of Lords in London. So, and I fund this study. So I'm really doing this pro bono because I believe it is important. And they are four clusters. So they are experienced professional, aged 45 years old and older.
Yeah.
They are small and mid-sized businesses. Then they are educators, so mostly teachers.
Mhm.
And then they are young people, so from 16 to when let's say they're finishing their studies and they're applying for the very first job and they might
Yeah.
work in the very, very first job. So I just want this context.
Mm.
And so I had those four surveys and, I was sending it out internationally.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting, not just what I receive, but what I don't receive. So educators is the worst performing category along those surveys because people don't want simply to share anything with me and everything is on an anonymous basis. And it's 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see over 1,000 teachers opened it and did not want to engage. And I'm not asking them to define the rocket science. Absolutely not. Those are questions. What do you use? How do you use? Would you love to learn that or that? So,
Mhm.
it's nothing which, let's say, would make feel you bad about yourself. Or maybe it would, but, then my theory of mind does not apply to this population category. And from the teachers, all the answers I receive came from the United States. So no one else
Wow.
wanted to do whatsoever. This is interesting. For example, with small and mid-sized businesses, United States, of course, it's a very big country, 51% of respondents. Then I have Singapore and Saudi.
Yeah.
Europe, 4.6%. And incredibly interesting, elaborated answers coming from small and mid-sized businesses.
Mhm.
So teachers, over 1,000 engagements, only 130 responses. And So the tone is more or less all over the place. We use it, we don't know what to do with it, and actually we really need some system to better understand. But what is more interesting is what is coming from young people. And they are saying, and I quote, "The issue is not AI, but lack of leadership of whatsoever level in our schools,
Yeah.
because we are forced to learn AI from TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And we want to just to understand, because we hear about it, we understand it will impact our studies,
Mhm.
our career perspective, positive, negative, both. um, we understand it has power. Talk to us. What does it mean to use it responsibly? And it's not just cheating, because I think people understand cheating, and cheating is a problem because
Yeah. Yeah.
humans love to cut corners. But what does it mean to be responsible with AI? Can we do something? So with my daughter, I had my moment of truth, I must admit, because my daughter, she's not really on social media. She's very much against it, very much against it. She's like, they are suicide, they are body shaming, they are just bad things. She has a private accounts which she shares with a couple of friends.
Yeah.
And of course, we both love watching cat videos on TikTok. Of course, I mean, this is part of my therapy. And I have cats, I write about cats. So Romy is the cat in my Romy and Robbie universe. So, but she's like very much against and she's like so I study medicine, I buy books which look like this and not like, just Kindle.
Mhm.
And then I walk with her into this compulsory so-called university presentation, and this is an appointment in the 11th grade, so for
Mhm.
16, 17 years old, and they sit together with a special advisor in school, and the students must give a presentation about what they want to study and why. And my daughter, so I had no idea what was prepared, because, I'm a working mom. And then, between working, cooking, talking to my daughter, flying somewhere and shopping for groceries, I need to have a bit of life. So I was not engaged in whatsoever in preparation of this presentation. So, and she's like, okay, so those three universities, medical school, this is what I want to do. And then I will study computational neuroscience courses, and I've already inquired. This university does not have them, but this university have it, and it's just because I believe one, two, three, four, five, and I'm like, where is it coming from? A huge
Genetics.
silence, because I was
Mm.
like, okay, so uh, obviously we live in the same household, right?
I see the
But
same books. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's not like she was like, Mom, tell me about the brain, or what are you doing there? And I'm just, of course, sometimes she's like listening to, you must know. And then you take a decision. This is a case where I apply. This is the case where I go completely without. And it's a tool, but I need to master the tool. And by the way, it's like with playing piano. If you just replace Google search with ChatGPT, it does not mean you master AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was so surprised. And she was like, Mom, our school, and she's an IB system, they don't want us to use it. And I talked to the actually general director, who is a former minister of education of Finland in
Mhm.
IB, and he's fantastic, Oli-Pekka. And I mean, he's really fantastic. And Finland is one of the best countries for education on the world stage. Yeah. And they worked with some foundations. I looked them up. None of them employ a real AI scientist, and they are all against. And of course, if you outsource your thinking to ChatGPT, yes, it won't improve your cognition. Yeah. But, I studied the case of alpha schools as well in Texas. And this is a fantastic implementation of AI in education. So, for example, personalized app, and you learn chemistry.
Mhm.
And chemistry, so there's a lot of words, but there are some math problems. And every chemistry, um, let's say, to do, has to do with mathematics. And then the app will spot that for some reasons. You did not listen carefully in class in the 4th or 5th grade, and you don't know how to do fractions.
Yeah.
And then you can't solve your chemistry. Then you train in those fractions, and out of sudden you are brilliant in chemistry. And the teacher does not need to spend time with you on those basics, because the teacher can empower, guide, provide mentoring and coaching, and not just trying to, let's say, persuade someone who does not want to learn, or tell those who are brilliant how to skip boredom in class. Yeah. So I think we need to, in the age of AI, we need to ask fundamental questions. What is the role of the teacher? What is the role of a student? And what does it mean to have human agency? You know, my daughter and I, we had a very interesting conversation when she was 4.5 years old. So she started playing piano at 3. And no child wants to practice. And she was like, I want to go to a birthday party. Why do I need to practice? And I said, Catherine, so just what do you want in life? And she said, I want to decide myself. I said, this is brilliant, Catherine. Fantastic. So there's one issue with deciding yourself. You must work very, very hard to have a choice.
Yes.
And then you will be able to decide yourself. And this very little girl at 4.5 really understood it. I could see it, because the teachers were saying that she was repeating this in a classroom. And I think it's absolutely paramount to talk to kids as to adults. Be patient with them, because it's not just one conversation, there are multiple conversations, but to show them how things work, that they are not descending upon us from Mars. And there is a tooth fairy, but maybe not another fairy. Yeah. That those are efforts, and we should applaud those who are implementing efforts. That yes, you can cheat here, but it might come on another end. Celebrate good examples. And I'm sounding maybe very boring, but I think it's absolutely imperative to safeguard humanity. And I believe that every single person must learn very basic math, very, very basic. I call this applied math. And by the way, IB system has a brilliant course of applied math. So just, basic statistics. So really basic equations, which, we all need in life. Yeah. And then I would really teach every single person creative writing and some literature, because look, so the best people, they know how to communicate, they know how to write. David Deutsch is a quantum physicist. He writes beautifully. Jennifer Doudna is a Nobel Prize for CRISPR research. She writes beautifully. You take her book, Crack and Creation, and I have no idea about CRISPR, but you read it and you understand it. Yeah. And this is a mastery. And I think independently on whether you are a historian or whether you are a computer scientist, it's worthwhile not just to sit there and code or outsource coding to Claude, but to really do basic maths, do your writing and do your thinking and having conversations like this one. Yeah. So I am quite big on having conversations and keeping the ecosystem of conversation, talking about, some archetypes in literatures who are working and talking among us, trying to understand why those things are like they are. Yeah. Discussing things which we can't resolve, right? And once again, I don't believe that this is my naivety. I think this is absolutely essential for human agency.
I think so, and I think one of the things you said earlier on in your answer was that one of the challenges is that children are expected or having to learn about AI from TikTok or Instagram, and I think it's almost and forgive the words, but it's almost where a lot of people are with talking about sex. Really, if we don't talk to our children about it, they won't possibly go and do it, will they? Really, or drink or drugs or whatever. Like if you talk about things, it takes away the mystique. It helps make sure the information that the child is getting is coming from a resourced, researched place, and doesn't have to. Schools don't need to make this boring. But I think that there's a thing where schools no, we ban AI altogether. It's just okay. That's such a blunt instrument to solve an issue that almost doesn't exist. I totally agree. I think every child should have an AI assistant with them so that when they're explaining the math problem on the board and the child hasn't quite got it, the child can go, oh, you didn't quite get this. So, oh, okay, I know, I understand it. Otherwise, a teacher has to keep changing. She's got
Yeah.
30 pupils in her class. Some of them have already done the math, in 2 seconds. Others are taking an hour to do it. So actually have an AI assistant, exactly as you said. This is how you do the fractions. Oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
That
Khan
isn't
Academy.
that's just
Yeah.
having an assistant sitting next to you helping you. That's not cheating. That's not in any
Absolutely.
way, shape, or form. But I think schools are very, yeah. There's just this reluctance because a lot of people in schools, like you said, a lot of educators don't. They just see as AI potentially as a threat to what they're doing.
Yes.
Uh,
And that's, I mean, this is really, I think this is a to do for every single leader and politician. And this is another thing which is kind of, getting on my nerve, really. I mean, you and I, we live in Europe. Europe is in a demographic decline. So
yep.
for us, automation and AI is a must just to keep the level of GDP full stop.
hmm
Yeah. So, do you know politicians who are actively engaging in programs, in concrete steps on how to come to the world where there is a human and a machine?
Not in the UK.
Not
In
in
Switzerland,
Germany, not in
in
Switzerland,
Germany,
not
no.
in
In France,
Belgium, not
no.
in France. So
No.
it's just like, they are those islands. So this is an island for startup founders and tech, and sometimes some Altman has a speech. And this is an island for schools, and schools are like 80, 90 years back in what they really provide in terms of material. Yeah. So completely out of any touch with the reality. And so here are like music and sports activities, and then the world of work has nothing to do with any of those.
Right.
It's kind of connect the dots. I think we must start connecting the dots and demand this from our leaders and leaders. It's not about having a business card. It's about the responsibility to lead. Yeah. And it implies actually reasoning and understanding. So what I ask from AIs, I need to ask from leaders. Yeah, AI is not a technology issue; it's a leadership issue, and probably solving the human dilemma here is even a bigger question than solving the mathematics.
Do you think we'll ever have a stage where AI is AI say is AI becomes our politicians or our leaders? I know in Estonia they've got a minister for procurement that's an AI. It's a slightly great PR topic, but and Estonia amazingly has always been incredibly
Yeah, but
digitally advanced.
1.2 million people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you think, well, gosh, AI has all this information and data, and you think, gosh, some of the decisions our politicians make are made based on influence and super PACs and lots of things. Do you think, well, would AI make a worse decision? But do you think we'll see, and maybe politicians use AI to write their speeches now? Who knows? But AI will get more involved in politics.
Look, so as a tool, for sure. Yeah, it's just I think that I don't really see a spine in politicians these
Yeah.
days.
Yes.
And this is the bigger problem for me. So AI is being instrumentalized
hmm
for the sake of one or another narrative, and this is what bothers me because you know it's not just about your term and the next election. It's actually about sustainability, not only in an environmental sense, but in all senses. Yeah. Of the country, of maybe constituency. And I fundamentally believe with AI, we must say goodbye to this top-down leadership. You know, Brussels does XYZ, or London, Westminster.
Yeah.
We must come to. So he's a community mayor. In this community, there might be two startups, maybe in the neighborhood, a large company, and then obviously municipality has some data and some issues, and
Yeah.
maybe there are three schools and one university.
Hmm.
Connect the dots, build an AI literacy group, talk to people like myself. I have this Rom and Robbie book, which is for family, so it's entertaining, but at the same time explains a lot of concepts. Talk to people like you, because you know how to communicate, you know how to moderate the discussions, and your heart is in the right place. So I think we need to come to this bottom up movement, rather to expect that someone else will solve the issues from us. I think this train has left the station. They won't.
You've given me a lot of your time, so and I don't want to take your whole day. So I'll just ask one last question, if that's okay. But then I have another question after that. The last question is a bit slightly cheekier. But so this question, so you're so busy, business and life and family and thinking and reading and writing and educating and challenging, etc. What do you do if you ever switch off? What do you do in your downtime? How do you nourish yourself mentally?
I love reading, and I absolutely I'm a maniacal ballet, opera, concerts,
Hmm.
drama, theater goer, arts. It gives me so much. I love running, and frankly, I just love doing my half an hour in the gym, because you sit and you do your machines, your weights, and it's kind of, something is buzzing in your head. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think about one thing, or I'm listening to a podcast. It gives me some nourishment, and it's just trying to live a life, because life is short,
Yeah.
and I. I can't be happy the whole day, but I can be happy every day, you know?
I like that. Yeah.
So it's just being happy and doing good work is a decision.
Hmm.
And I'm trying always to think, I'm very grateful to be healthy and not to, have some condition which is really awful,
Yeah.
and really benefit from it, because I'm very grateful for being alive, and being capable to read and
Mhm.
contribute and discuss with interesting people. So it's a privilege.
Oh, fabulous. A great answer. And then my final question, and you can say no, or you can say yes and then say no. So would you come back after the 22nd of October and sort of talk a bit about the results? And actually, I haven't
Yeah.
talked at all about robotics. I'd love to get your thoughts on robotics as well. So
No, absolutely, absolutely. So absolutely, and I'm actually I will offer two webinars after the 22nd of October,
mhm.
which will be online, and we can share details, so that your community, if
That'd be great.
you want to invite the community, can join. And obviously, I will share what is being studied, and things will be downloadable from the website. So I will have probably some feedback or not, which is already a feedback.
Yes, I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure what your experience is with the House of Lords, but it'll be interesting to see what you think when you engage with
Look,
them.
I've been there a couple of times, and on one occasion I had to wear a hat, which was very funny, you know. But I don't expect too much from it, but
Mhm.
I will have, let's say, a corpus of material which is highly useful.
Yeah.
And because I don't expect any leadership from top down, but I can share bottom up,
Hmm.
and people in the communities might come to me and benefit from this experience, because there are some insights which might be eye-opening.
Mm. Mm.
And if a person decides to engage and
Mhm.
lead, they will have a place to come to. And my big purpose is really to build a community and to engage as many people as I can,
Yeah.
to be passionate about the subject, because it touches so so much in our lives.
Mm. When you probably already know, but when you go to the House of Lords, try and engage with Baroness Martha Lane Fox. So she's just been
I
appointed
don't
chair
know
of.
her,
Okay,
I must admit. So I know
yeah,
Baroness Udin and Baroness Werner
okay,
and Earl of Errol. So those are the three contacts I have.
okay. But yeah, so Martha's just been appointed as the chair of London's new AI and Jobs Task Force, and
Fantastic.
she's always been she's been a tech focus. She did like lastminute.com back in the late 90s, so she's very sort of tech focused, and she's very engaging. So yeah, I'm sure she'd love to sort of talk to you and learn about what.
I would love to meet her. So
Mm,
I hope there will be a space to meet her
mm.
properly and to have a conversation.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. There are a million more questions I'm going to ask you next time. But yeah, you're fabulous. Thank you so
Oh,
much. I love that conversation.
Andrew, thank you so much for your interest. It's a true privilege. And once again, I'm delighted you are in the UK.